Okay, so in today's topics, I'm going to be talking about picking, posture, and pull-offs, and why they're all kind of linked. So actually, the first thing I'd like to talk about briefly before I get into the picking is posture. Now, to me, this has an impact on everything we do, left hand and the right hand, and I'll get into why right away. So I grew up playing classical guitar as well as rock, blues, and jazz or whatever. So I always was told to put the guitar on my left knee. Now, it definitely doesn't look as cool, especially when you're standing. That's kind of how I have my strap mimicking that position. But there's a real technical reason for this, for the left hand and the right hand. So as a general overview, the left hand has complete freedom over the neck. Now, to show you the difference, if I played like this, the first thing that gets in the way and restricts me is my own body, okay? So, of course, you can combat that by coming further out and playing like this. But to be honest, I think consistency is key, you know? So that's the first thing I would say, that enables your left hand, like pure freedom, okay? And from the picking point of view, we'll talk about that in more detail shortly. But the first thing to talk about is how to hold it. And there are a variety of ways. So for me, looking at the close-up cam here, I used to play like this. I used to try and copy Malmsteen's hand. And I wanted to play like Steve Vai, but in actual fact, I remember watching his thumb on Crossroads, and it has this big bend, almost like he's double jointed. And I got to the point where I felt like I wanted to break my thumb in order to copy him because I loved how he played. But that's part of my point, that everyone, you know, has to find the best way for them. Okay, so moving back to the point. So it basically comes down to a variety of points. So the first point of contact is the finger and thumb. So you can, you know, get movement across strings like this, without moving anything else, which is really good for string skipping, but for tremolo picking, I don't find it quite as convenient. So that's point number one. The next point is I changed my picking to this kind of style where, you know, almost like the trigger of a gun, put the plectrum there, and I hold it like this, okay? Now, a couple of other points. I hold the pick perpendicular, so straight to the body, but the angle is created from the guitar, because a lot of people will say angle your pick, but if you're playing like this, then you need to angle the pick like that, right? But if the guitar is angled, you can play flat or straight. So to me, that feels very natural. So there's naturally an angle. Okay? So the other things just to briefly talk about is the wrist, the arm. You should always be relaxed. It shouldn't really ever be tense. Another point, something that I do is have a support here, right? And to me, that just helps to kind of fine tune my picking hand, because if I didn't have the support, I feel like it's kind of, you know, in thin air, right? And you need some sort of support. Again, I'm not saying you have to do it with the little finger. Other ways you could do it, what I call the chicken leg of the hand here, you could potentially rest that there. Get some support that way. Some people might rest it here, get some palm muting going on. And if you're someone that plays like this, you can support it there. Either way, I think, you know, it's worth experimenting with. Feel free to pause the video and think about this. And of course, onto picking techniques themselves. There are obviously a bunch: alternate picking, sweep picking, economy picking. and perhaps they might all require a slightly different approach. Now, I predominantly economy pick. So when I'm playing my scales, I'm going down, up, down, down, up. So I go across the strings. And, you know, a lot of players do this, and one of my favorites is Frank Campali, and I would say he's really one of the innovators, or like the main innovator of this style, in my opinion. Or should I say this technique, not style. It gives you a really flowing sound. So for me, the accuracy is created with the support and stability of the pinky here, as I mentioned. So that's just a little intro into how I think about picking, how I pick. Of course, I can delve into this further with exercises and stuff down the line, which I certainly intend to do. So back to posture and pull-offs. So basically, going to the left hand now, as I mentioned, the posture is very important because it allows the left hand the chance to be free up and down the neck, but also the way that you hold it. If I come around here, you know, if I'm doing anything technical, I like to have my thumb in the center of the neck, not grabbing it. That's more for if I'm doing traditional bending style. But if I'm trying to stretch, the thumb is here. And the other thing that's very important doing hammer-ons and pull-offs is the connection to the note you're playing. So if I just play this here, right? So the key is to make sure you're hitting the notes just before the fret. Again, for me, I feel like that gives you the most, the strongest sound with the least effort. All right, so when practicing any sort of legato or pull-offs, hammer-ons, to me, that gives you the cleanest sound. And the final thing I'll say in this video is, to me, a very important thing is articulation. So the connection, the very connection with the note, how we strike it to be nice and confident, but not overly hard. Okay, so we can even make a scale sound nice. And for me, that all starts with the contact with the fretted note. So that's just a brief lesson and a few things for you to think about: your posture, picking and pull-offs, hammer-ons, and yeah, I hope that helps.